The burden of college student debt is getting more attention in this election cycle. One key part of the problem is the rising cost of student housing. Between 1989 and 2017, room and board on and off campuses went up by more than 82% at four-year public universities. Correspondent Hari Srinivasan recently traveled to Philadelphia to see how college students there are coping with housing costs. It's the latest in our special series on rethinking college and part of our regular education segment, Making the Grade.
All right, my friends, we're going to get in right here.
Badia Weeks loves spending time in the pool with her young students.
Simon says, wiggle your whole body.
The 19-year-old teaches swim lessons 5 days a week while attending Philadelphia's Temple University. She's a junior majoring in exercise and sports medicine.
I'm moving my mass out here, and then I'm pulling it in.
Weeks is doing well academically. She has a 3.5 GPA, but outside of the classroom, she's struggling.
For this apartment, it's about $6,000 a semester, which honestly I feel like isn't worth what I get. Me and my roommate both pay that, so it's like we're paying $1,500 a month each.
The 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment was assigned to her by Temple after she transferred last spring from a nearby private college. Weeks, who is on her own financially, covers her tuition through scholarships and her part-time wages. She says she tried hard to get into a cheaper apartment near campus, but didn't have any luck. Affordable housing options are becoming increasingly hard to find. Apartment rents in Philadelphia have gone up 25% over the past decade, so several months ago she took out a private loan for $5,000 to pay for her housing.
It's upsetting having to be in debt just to live on campus. I feel like is a little ridiculous.
She's not the only one going into debt for housing. A U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development analysis found that for many students, living costs exceed and even dwarf the cost of tuition and fees.
It's a very serious problem.
Sarah Goldrick-Rab is a professor of higher education policy and sociology at Temple, who studies housing costs.
We estimate that approximately 1 in 2 undergraduates is finding their housing to be unaffordable. I mean, the most typical thing that we'll hear is a student who says, I'm going to have trouble paying my rent this month. They don't necessarily eat every day, or they aren't able to come to class every day because they cut the money that they would have spent, let's say, on gas for the car or on the subway.
Our perception of college is students living in a building, ivy-covered walls. That's not the norm.
That is vanishingly rare in today's colleges and universities, to the point that only about 12 to 13% of the nation's undergraduates actually reside on a college campus.
Last year, Goldrick-Rab founded the Hope Center for College Community and Justice.
The strategy there just has to be aligned to
a research center dedicated to finding solutions for the financial and logistical barriers that prevent students from graduating. At Temple, there are efforts to assist food-insecure students, and a university care team helps connect students in a housing crisis to emergency funding.
We've been able to support them also then with the resources of our counseling center.
But one of the biggest challenges here, and at many other universities, is the lack of affordable housing on campus. Goldrick-Rab says public colleges and universities facing budget cuts see food and housing as revenue streams.
If you begin to see housing as a profit center, then you begin to charge students more and more simply because you can. The other thing is that a growing number of schools are really trying to attract a certain kind of student and family. It's a family with a lot more disposable income, and it's a family that's going to pay more tuition with less financial aid. So the residence hall rooms for students are larger than they used to be. The amenities are more substantial.
It's a similar story off campus. New luxury buildings are catering to wealthier students around Temple and other college campuses around the country, but not everyone can afford that kind of living experience.
1 out of 4 people in the city of Philadelphia live below the poverty line, so you'd think this would be an affordable place to live. Philadelphia also has another distinction, however, which is the second most number of colleges and universities of any city in the nation. And that makes affordable housing hard to come by, whether you're at a big 4-year university or even a 2-year community college.
Just steps away from downtown, 26,000 students attend the Community College of Philadelphia. Like most 2-year schools, housing is not offered. A 2018 study by Goldrick-Rab and her colleagues found nearly 20% of the school students were experiencing homelessness, and more than half were housing insecure.
Everything. I'm not ashamed to say that shelter is couch surfing, and it's been things that I had to do.
Thomas, who prefers to go only by his first name, is one of those students without a consistent roof over his head. He's a first-year student who works in the campus bookshop, but says he can't save enough to get an apartment.
The deposit is unreal. The deposit is 3 times the rent. I can't even manage the 1 times rent that I'm trying to manage from work, let alone have the money to save for it. It just isn't practical.
So this building was built in the 1950s.
A new program in an old convent hopes to help at-risk students like Thomas.
So this will be a typical room. Students will have fully furnished rooms, beds, dressers, desks, and they all have their own sink with shared bathrooms.
Sandra Guillory is the Philadelphia director of DePaul USA, a nonprofit focused on homelessness. They plan to rehab this convent to house 24 students from colleges across Philadelphia. Students will be asked to pay $150 a month.
Our top priorities are students in their final years of school, so 3rd, 4th, 5th years of school. They have the most student loan debt, and if they drop out of school today, they would have that debt and no degree and be worse off than if they had never gone to school.
The $17,000 it will cost to house and feed each student per year will be split between the students, the city of Philadelphia, and private donations.
If we can get them to graduate, they will never have to worry about homelessness, hopefully ever again, poverty. Their children won't have to worry about this.
Can you kick those feet?
For her part, Temple's Badia Weeks is hoping to squeeze in more hours in the pool this semester so she can save up and possibly avoid another housing loan next semester.
That was an awesome first start. Good job.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Hari Srinivasan in Philadelphia.
And by the way, the new housing program at the old convent is expected to open to students in January.